Hi there, and welcome back to Intentional Money Moves Live. I am so excited to talk with my friend Vennessa today. She had sent me a message a few weeks ago about a topic that was on her heart and on her mind that she wanted to really dive into. And when I read her message, I was like, oh, yes, we have to have this conversation. So, Vennessa, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and what really pumped you up about this conversation.
Yeah, so my name is Vennessa McConkey, and I have been a career advisor and strategist for, oh my goodness, since 2015. I did it in corporate and then now as an operations director and plant manager. And so I know all the financial aspects of that stuff and dealing with the corporate career and hiring and all those things. And now I've been doing that for candidates and companies. And so I am really pumped up about this conversation because there's this big, what I like to call an interpretation gap between candidates who are looking for a role, whether they're unemployed or not, and then companies who are searching for someone to solve their problems so they don't have this leak in their system financially.
I love this. And I'm always obviously on the individual side because I'm helping people from a financial planning perspective to transition through different changes in their careers. So I'm always looking at it from the individual side. But as a business owner, I also definitely think about it from the hiring side as well. So that was really what interested in me when I saw your message. I was like, yes, let's dive in.
Well, because I mean, most people, they think about, Leah, it's like that this job search is this inconvenience, right? Even from like an employer standpoint and from a candidate, they're like, oh, I got laid off, or oh, I need to find someone. And if you really look at it, it's not. I mean, yes, it's an inconvenience, but it's really a financial event where
Absolutely.
both people on either side of this hiring table have no idea how like expensive this ends up being until it's too late, right? You've got job seekers over here who are going, I've been out of work for 3 months and, I've put in X amount of applications. I've put in, I get this many interviews. I get this amount of feedback and rejections or positive, whatever it may be. And then you've got companies over here who are like, well, I've had this role open for X amount of days and I know there's a recruiting fee if I'm using a recruiter and I'm still going on the day-to-day stuff, and they don't think about how much it's costing them at all. And so it's the financial loss that they're not really calculating, right? Because let's say if you're a candidate and you're looking at, I don't know, $150,000 role, and your search has been going for the national average or median average right now, it's not median average, it's median, is 108 days.
Okay.
So if you take and do that calculation, I mean, you've already left almost $50,000 on the table.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. And that's a number that job seekers are not tracking. They're not tracking what the clock basically is costing them, right?
Well, and I see it in conversations with people also, that it's interesting to kind of witness the costs associated with a job search, right? Because a lot of times what people will find is they will be less and less discerning as the search goes on, which that in and of itself can be really expensive, right, Vennessa?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was looking at numbers a couple days ago and I'm like, it's about 70 or 71% of job seekers actually this year in 2026, they lowered their expectations for their salary. About, what is it, like $20,000 they've cut it by. That's huge. And that's not a number for, and what people are thinking is like, oh, I just need to take any job right now just to get bills paid, start planning for whatever else is coming, colleges for kids and all that type of stuff. But that compounds over the years because no one's going to get a $20,000 raise their first year at a company just so you can meet where you were supposed to be. So let's say over 5 years, I mean, that's $100,000 that's foregone.
Yeah, and this
Right?
in the
So it's not costing just today, it's costing for years in advance. And then they're draining their savings. I think I was looking at numbers too. It was, 46% of job seekers have less than 3 months of financial runway if their income stopped today.
Absolutely. I definitely believe that. I mean, there's crazy statistics out there about like not even being able to cover a $400 emergency. The statistics out there are just mind blowing. But
Yep.
this also in the face of a significant inflationary environment, right? So your expenses are going up and you're talking about taking less, but you also are dealing with companies that are struggling with these inflationary issues, and how do we figure out how to price the role appropriately to get the right person in that spot to make sure that we're not losing money on the actual, like, just having the job open, right?
Yeah,
So
it's this catch 29, right? It's like, or catch 22 or 29. Where did I get that?
Yeah.
Right, catch 22, right? And this is early in our career too. Hey, I got a degree, but I've never worked in the degree, but someone needs to take a chance on me. And you work hard to prove yourself to an employer to get that chance. And as we get further along in our careers, we forget that.
Yeah.
And companies forget that too. And then everyone's playing the game, this whole job search process and hiring process, they're playing this game, especially as mid to senior level executives, like you're an entry level. You can't just keep submitting your resume online and hoping someone picks you, right? We're not at that point anymore. Entry level, yeah, play the game, okay? Because no one knows you from Jack, okay? But at senior level, you have to continue to change how you do things out there, whether the economy is changing, whether there's inflation, you and I both were around for the 2007, 2008 crisis. That was a nightmare, right? I mean, people lost all kinds of money. What did you do then, right? People have to start planning for these things because no one is ever safe. No company's ever safe. No candidate's ever safe. And you have to plan accordingly, right? But it's not easy. I mean, I've got 3 boys who are eating everything and anything right now, and food costs are ridiculous. I'm about ready to tell them to go eat grass, right? So it's like, it's like nuts out there, right?
And it's really interesting. I remember in 2008 working in equity research at that time, and the big conversation was debt covenants, right? Who was going to be in breach of their debt covenants because revenue dropped so quickly, all of a sudden cash flow. And I think that's the thing that people forget about. I definitely don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know where we're headed in terms of the economy or anything like that. But just general having the stability in your life is keeping those fixed expenses, those fixed commitments low, whether you are a business owner or you're an individual in your job search, whatever that might look like. But it doesn't matter. It gives you that freedom and flexibility to actually be out of work for a few months or for 6 months or 9 months or for however long it takes, because you don't have all of these financial commitments. What I keep seeing people do is there's no impulse control, right? So people want something, they're going to, and there's all kinds of financing programs out there now, all kinds of different things, right? And so they want something, and so then they'll go into some kind of a financing program if they can't necessarily afford it right away. Well, that just increases your fixed commitment every single month, right? And so that reduces that freedom and flexibility that you have. But when you keep those expenses low, it really does allow you to have the flexibility if you need to take a little longer with the job search to get the right position, right? Or invest in a career strategist, which has one of the highest ROIs from what I've witnessed in the work that I do, especially for people who are out of work. It's huge. But even if you're in work and you're looking for your next transition, absolutely a huge return on investment from what I've seen. Vennessa, what do you want people to kind of walk away with from this conversation?
Well, what I want people to understand is, just like you said, and thank you for that, because it is true. People look at, you can drop, $2,000, $3,000 or more for, career strategist or advisor. And just like we talked about the numbers, you losing $50,000 in, just a few months. Look at that return. It's huge.
Yeah.
And people want to use a recruiter because they think it's free. It's just taking you longer because you're not their only client, type thing. But I want them to walk away with the fact that you're in a different market. Yes. Okay. We can't control the economy. We can't control the inflation costs, but you can control how you're putting yourself out there in the market. You can choose. This is the great thing. You can actually choose to not apply to jobs. Amazing. You can actually pick up your phone. You can use this wonderful thing that's called the internet that everyone has these days and reach out to people like Leah and I did, right? And say, hey, I do this for a living. I solve these problems. I am good at doing this. I have done it over and over, and I've gotten this return on investment for companies, right? I create ROI summaries for people too, not just resumes. It's like, they're buying your services as a candidate. what return is that company getting? Just like if you're working in that company and you're looking for a vendor or supplier, whatever it may be, you're buying their services and you're expecting a significant return. What is that about? So many times, and a lot of professionals don't get this, Leah, is it was so, what do I want to say? Like so easy, I guess you could say. Here's my resume. Or gone are the days where we just walked in and like, here, I'm here to work, right? When can you start? Today? Great. So let's walk in and let's do this, right? Next week? Great. Like you're in. You want to talk to us? Let's do a tour right now. Let's go. Those things are gone. And we can't keep acting like they still exist. They don't. And they're costing us time. Yes, it's so easy to go find something on a job board and click, but then you think what's the mental ramification of that? You start you're like, okay, yeah, I'm so excited. I had some client who was working with HubSpot and they're like so excited. They wanted to work. They're like, it's perfect. And I'm like, okay, go ahead. You could apply or you can reach out and connect to someone. They applied, not even a week later, rejected. For someone I knew was perfectly ready for that position, able to perform it. But they weren't positioning themselves out there. They weren't making it clear as to what they can do for the organization. They're just filling out questions at the company, by the way. They just take the last job description and they just add to it. Oh, this person that we had last, they didn't do this, but we need them to do this now, and just add that in there. This is why we see job descriptions that say, must have good written and oral communication skills. How do you even measure that, right? Or MS Office experience. I mean, what are we in 1990, right? It's like, come on. So that's what they're doing. And you're trying to match that. And what's happening is this constant mismatch because the companies they're mismatching what they're looking for. They're saying, I have this problem. I can't tell people exactly what our problem is, right? For example, I can say years ago when I was in corporate, we had a regulatory issue, a recall on a medical device, and we could not put that out there that it was our regulatory affairs director's issue. We couldn't do that, but we just needed a new one. But we had to put what we needed. And so you don't find that out until after typically you're hired. So how is the company positioning themselves out there to be found other than job boards? They have to communicate, they have to talk out there, they have to market themselves in other ways than just, hey, I need someone to fill this role. And the candidate has to do the same thing. They would be, what I love to tell people is use the job boards for data. Hey, they're looking. So they have a problem. Now, how can you, instead of taking all that time and effort and losing the money to, put out there all these job applications and using AI to structure your resume, whatever it is, I've seen people answer questions that the applications are asking using AI. I'm like, come on, if you can't solve this simple question right now with your own thinking, how do you expect the company to think that they're going to hire you? But you have to match the two. And so instead of just applying to the jobs, you have to go out there and say, okay, this company has a problem. How can I reach out to them? I want to work for HubSpot, Nike, wherever it is. How can I reach out to them, see what their stage of growth is? That's a huge one. If they're constantly going on decline, I'd be like, go. Unless you are someone who specializes in turnarounds, do not, right? And then you present to their people, you build a relationship. People, they're going to hire someone who know, like, and trust you, always. I have so many people come back to me, they're like, oh my goodness, they hired someone internally. I got to the final round and they hired someone internally. Duh, because they already had someone in mind. They had to see if anyone else out there matched what someone was on the inside to level them up or be referred by someone on the inside. That's a big deal because you are just cold calling. If you think about it, you're cold calling this company and saying, I have these, skills that kind of match everyone else's because I've used a tech tool to figure that out and match it to what you guys are asking for, which you don't really know what you're asking for. And we just waste so much time and money versus company over here, please work really hard to understand what your problem is and what you're truly looking to solve and how you're going to measure that. And the candidate over here, now I love to say this too to people. Remember the days when we had catalogs where sales guys would come into our offices?
Oh, yeah.
Right? They'd come in and the worst sales guys would just give you that, and they just give you a bunch of like test things from that catalog to try out. The best ones would bring in that same catalog and say, okay, can you show me around, tell me what you guys are dealing with right now, what are your struggles, blah, blah. Oh, I recommend this, maybe one or two things, try it out. Oh, I'm going to come back next week and see how that worked. Why are we not doing that as candidates?
Right.
Why are we not saying, hey, yes, we all have a catalog of services and things that we can provide, but what are you leading with?
Mm-hmm.
Those are really big things from both the company too. Hey, you have a list of job description, responsibilities, skill sets, all that, but what do you really need?
You know what used to surprise me so much when I was in equity research, a big part of what we were doing was evaluating a corporation strategy, right? Do we think it's going to create value in the company? Do we think the company's overvalued? Like, what is it telling us, right? But in doing that analysis, what I learned is there's a tremendous amount of information that is widely and publicly available to you. If you are searching for a role at a publicly traded company, take advantage of all of that investor relations material because, to Vennessa's point, I think this piece around ROI, there's a huge miss in communicating the way that you can create value for a company. And what these things do is they're essentially saying, hey, this is how we're choosing to create value. Show us how you can plug into it. So it's a phenomenal resource. If you're looking and you're considering a publicly traded company, just know they're all completely available. Go to the investor relations section of the company's website and be sure to do some research there.
Yeah, even look on YouTube, and they typically have a lot of their talks about a lot of their senior executives are sharing all kinds of information. They have to have their quarterly earnings up at most companies now. I mean, you can look at their stocks, you can look, I mean, all over the media, they have, especially if they're a larger public traded company, they have to have that stuff available.
Right.
And it's so important. Use your time to apply online to these jobs and tailor your applications and stuff, or use it wisely, as we like to teach our kids, right? Use your time wisely to apply strategically, right? That's so important.
Absolutely, especially if you want to maximize your compensation, right? And at the end of the day, we're always looking at from a financial planning perspective of how do you earn with intention? How do you do it in a way that you are creating the life that you want for yourself? And in order to really maximize that compensation, it is meeting that company where they're at and making sure that you're communicating in the same language to really figure out how to optimize that situation for yourself.
Well, that's the thing too, is communicating in the same language.
Yeah.
Right. Because we all know all the things that we've ever done for an organization in the course of our career, us and God, only people. And then we verbally vomit or we hide things. And we're not thinking, how is the company thinking? If I was already working at that organization, how would I be speaking? Right. And vice versa. It's like, if I am looking for a candidate, how do I want them to speak? And that's not something that AI can filter out. You have to actually do the human work.
It's a good reminder, right? I think so many people, I mean, I have been fascinated. There are great ways to use AI to make your job search more efficient. There's no question about that. But I have been amazed at something as important as your career. I don't think that's something that you want to just kind of hand over to this newer technology that might not necessarily be exactly where you are, and you may not have communicated with it enough in order for it to really provide you the guidance that you need. And I do see people making some pretty significant career decisions around some fairly inaccurate responses. And so I think that's really scary. And I think it has to be addressed very directly, because if this is something that's important to you, you got to have your eyes on it as a human being.
Absolutely. I mean, not only just in the candidate position, but in the company as well, because, you've got not just recruiter fees that are adding up, not just the cost of daily, like if you want to call it productive output that's missing every single day, right? Because someone's not there. You're sitting there looking at, if you mishire someone, I call it, that's a big multiplier. Right? If that hire doesn't work out, oh my goodness, you're looking at, it's over 200% of someone's annual salary on a bad hire. And 3/4 of all companies are saying that they've had a bad hire that has had significant losses. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is absolutely huge. And people are just, they're not sitting there and slowing down enough. We freak out as a candidate over here going, oh my goodness, I lost my job. I got laid off. I might have some severance. Oh, I don't have, I'm going into my 401k. I'm tapping into savings. Oh my goodness. And you've got a company over here kind of doing the same thing. They're tapping into their savings, making sure they can keep things running, adding additional costs, roles and responsibilities to other people that are there. And they're not sitting there and going, okay, what problem am I really solving? Or what problem do I have over here? What problem am I good at solving? And what companies need me? And every day that company, put yourself in their shoes, every day that company has a seat that is empty. You think about it too, from a company perspective, every time that seat's empty, a competitor can fill theirs faster and they move faster. There's so many financial numbers that are associated with it. This is where you come in a lot. It's like, hey, no, right? When you and I first talked, it was they need to have a job first in order to do any financial work with me, because then they can't pay, right? Type thing. That's important. And when you have a job, you have to know how to manage the income that's coming in. And companies, please, this is where we're having a lot of layoffs, is because we're not managing our resources at our companies. We're saying, buy this technology, do this. We just had, for example, at our church, we just had a new senior pastor come in, and we had our old one was there for like 35 years. Okay. So he just kind of trusted people to do their job. There have been so many people they had to let go because it was fluff. So even in an organization like a church, there's so much fluff, and people are also saying, oh my goodness, now they're spending money on this and this. And yes, now they can, because the person wasn't doing their job. The company wasn't evaluating whether they were doing their job or not, and how it was adding to the revenue and whatever other metrics that they're measuring of the company. It's so important, but we have to slow down in order to speed up.
That's such a good point on so many levels, right? I think a lot of times, especially if you're somebody who recently lost your job, first of all, that's absolutely terrifying for many people. So if you are watching and you are in that situation, just want to acknowledge like the level of fear that people experience. And what happens is then a lot of times people do get kind of kicked in a high gear of what can I make happen as quickly as possible? And to Vanessa's point, if we really want to think about how do we earn with intention, how do we maximize our income? It does take a step back, right? And a lot of times, believe it or not, those layoffs can be a blessing in disguise. I know it happened in my own life. I've witnessed it happen in so many clients' lives where, hey, we can take a step back and look at, did this role really meet us where we needed it to meet us in our life? Or is this an opportunity to look at how I might do things a little bit differently the next time? Do I need a little bit of training? Now I have some time and space. Do I want to invest in myself a little bit right now so I can really maximize my next opportunity, right? But at all of those conversations do need that space in order to really be able to give yourself time to, first of all, process. If you've had this change, it can be very overwhelming, and give yourself the time and space to process, but then to start to think about how can I be more intentional with my next move?
Yeah. And that's what I tell people too, when they're like, okay, when they're ready to hire me, they're like, okay, yes, let's go. And I'm like, no, we're going to wait a week. You're going to do nothing job search related. And they're like, but what happens? I'm like, well, you've already lost however many weeks they've been out of work. I'm like, you already lost that amount. So why don't we just take a step back, grieve that loss.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about it. I've had clients who have lost their parents. They've, all this type of stuff during our searches and whatnot. And you have to take that time to be like, okay, let me get my head straight. Because a lot of times, like you said, it's just such a shock to our system because we never think it's going to happen to us.
Right.
We never do. And so it's not something when we're in the grind of things, we're thinking about, oh yeah, we should set, $100 or $200 or $500 aside. So when that happens, oh no, I'm safe, I'm good, right? And then it happens and you're like, oh my goodness, now what? Now I've got unemployment, which by the way, if you file for unemployment, I've had people, it's taking up to 8 weeks to get anything through. That's significant right there too. So it's a lot that you have to slow down and be intentional, which is where you need an outside perspective like myself or like Leah and say, hey, because I'm not in that situation at this moment, you are. You need someone from the outside saying, hey, this is what we should do for our plan.
Mhm.
What's your situation financially? What's your situation in the job? What are you good at? All this stuff, and pull it out of people. And then, like I said, I give people a week, sometimes more, depending on their situation. I say, hey, let's not look at that. And when they come back, they look at it and go, oh, I can do that. Because when we're under that type of stress, because you look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, you take away someone's job, that's the bottom. That's the foundation for everything else.
Right.
So many people go into depression. They're just overwhelmed in so many ways. They can't think clearly. They can't plan financially clearly. They can't plan their job. They can't, nothing. It's a mess.
I will say I just recently read somebody's article, and it was a financial professional who wrote this about the importance of cash flow is what they were talking about, and how cash flow is everything. And I think to Vennessa's point just now is that, yeah, cash flow is amazing and cash flow gives you an opportunity to build and create wealth, but we also need to make sure that we have established that strong financial foundation across the board and that you have emergency savings in place, right? That you're not struggling with high interest rate debt, right? That you're saving for retirement, that you have these pillars in place that allow you, again, the time, the space to really be able to be discerning and not to just do kind of the next thing that, like when Vennessa was talking about when we first started talking, for a lot of people, if you don't negotiate that compensation initially, the cost of that compounds over the years significantly. And I know I've done some models for people just to illustrate that specific point before, because I think it is so important. And so many people are in a place of just wanting the job, right? And we want to make sure that we're more selective than just the job.
Yeah, and that's the same with the companies too. It's
Right.
here, when I'm hiring someone, what do I expect? Let me look at the economy, let me look at our situation, let me look at our market and say, okay, does this line up? How is this going to pan out? Right? You have to do this. Do we have enough in our reserves to be able to cover if we need to lay people off and we have to hire someone? Most companies don't have that. They're saying, oh yeah, this is this budget. They're literally pulling from other budgets in the company to cover that for that emergency situation, instead of saying, hey, we should have, I don't know, $300,000 sitting here for when we need to hire someone or bring in a new technology, not just say, oh, we're going to do AI. We're going to hire someone who's got AI experience, whatever that means anymore,
Right.
right? To come in and take care of our issues. It's not going to, still have to have someone creating the strategy behind it, but you have to know what it costs.
Absolutely. Well, Vennessa, I know that we are just literally scratching the surface of this conversation, but we just have a couple more minutes left. And I want to make sure if people want to reach out to you, they know how to find you.
Yeah, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. That is where I hang out the most. I've been hanging out more on Substack too, but you can go ahead and find me. Just type in my name. You see it at the bottom here. My name is spelled differently. So make sure you look it up that way. God bless my mother.
Just want to keep things interesting for you. That's all.
Yeah, it was the era of, Whitney Houston, Vennessa Williams. So me and my sister, Vennessa and Whitney, let's spell it differently so that no one can ever figure out who you are.
And we have a wonderful resource for those who have been watching and maybe in a job transition specifically. We have a great checklist of financial planning topics that you might want to think about if you haven't thought about already. So if you comment on this video checklist, we will make sure that you get a copy of that checklist wherever you're watching. Vennessa, thank you so much for joining me today. Any final words for our audience?
No, just if you go ahead and go follow me on LinkedIn, we have master classes every couple of weeks where we're talking about some of these things in depth. Make sure you check those out because you can't just find them anywhere.
Fantastic. And I just really encourage people to take advantage of people like Vennessa and the resources that she offers. When you are in a job transition, it can feel very demoralizing. It can feel very isolating, and it doesn't have to. But in order for it not to, you do have to reach out, whether it's support directly, with somebody like Vennessa or attending some of these programs, and just making it feel like you're not alone can be really, really important during this time period. So we are both here as resources for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you are here watching the replay, I will make sure to come back and respond to any questions or comments. So feel free to leave any questions or comments you may have. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me.